Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Punita Sabharwal, Managing Editor of Entrepreneur India, and glad to be having this fireside chat with Amit Sevak, who heads ETS across the US and various international markets globally. And Amit, glad to be talking to you today. And I've heard you are leading ETS in a very entrepreneurial manner, and there's a great approach which you're having towards the education bit of it. So before we start the conversation and I throw my questions, would you give a quick background about the last 2.5 years when you have been leading ETS?
Thanks, Punita. It's great to be here. It's great to see so many friends and colleagues as well here. This is my third year in a row at the conference, so it's great to be here. Last 2.5 years at ETS has been an exciting journey. We're in a fantastic transformation of ETS. ETS serves individuals around the world. We are an education and talent solutions organization. We're focusing on the science of measurement to power human progress. So we assess individuals in the education sector and also in the workforce. We do approximately 50 million assessments every year. Wow. So it's been an exciting journey. We've got a great new leadership team, many of whom are here today. We've got a new brand. We've got a whole series of new products. This year, we'll be launching over a dozen new products and services, including here in India. And I'll be making an announcement of a couple of these products here shortly.
Sure. And globally, if I can understand it well, I mean, you've seen various waves of education happening. And there's a different world which we have seen pre-COVID, post-COVID. There was the revolution of edtech. You're heading a legacy brand, which again has to revolutionize itself every few years. And now we are talking about AI taking over everything. So how do you see this new world of education evolving, and how are we making the next generation future ready?
So technology has continued to play an important role in education everywhere. There's many waves of technology. I remember the old days when we started using different elements of technology in the classroom, computers to start, right, and then eventually other devices. COVID really was a major accelerator in the use of technology everywhere, right? We were having online learning, devices were being brought in new and innovative ways. But one theme that has been missing in the use of technology in education is the measurement of the effectiveness of learning with technology. So when you think about all of the ways, here in India, in the US, around the world, there's so many edtech entrepreneurs and edtech investors and partners. And if you think about the challenge we have is when you're using technology, it sounds exciting, right? You use a technology, it's a new shiny thing, but how do you know if the technology is actually delivering skill building in a student or in a teacher or in a person at work? And that's where organizations like ETS can come in, because if you can measure the effectiveness of the learning, it's not just taking a test, it's ensuring that that assessment is a valid, reliable way to measure skill building. You can then determine which technology works and which technology doesn't work. Whenever I'm talking to edtech entrepreneurs, I'm constantly asking the question, how are you measuring the learning? Because for all of us, whether we're for-profit or non-profit in the edtech space, it's just so important that we remember that we're still in education. And ultimately, while there's a return on investment that a startup founder might be looking for, a valuation increase, you want to not only measure the return on investment, but the return on learning outcomes. And that's where measurement plays an important role.
Sure. And today, when everyone is talking about AI taking over jobs, and I'm sure that's the question everyone is asking these days, so how do you see the new age skills are penetrated in the new workforce which is entering the market?
The role of AI in the workforce? Look, there are a lot of individuals that are worried about the role of AI in the workforce. The WEF report, the World Economic Forum, recently did a report showing that 60% of all jobs globally are going to be disrupted by AI by 2030. That's pretty significant. If you think about 60% of all of the jobs in the world being disrupted at the skill level, that's dramatic.
Yeah.
At the same time, automation of jobs, that's going to be a change. But I'm actually hopeful, genuinely, because I think there's going to be so many more new jobs created. I mean, if you think about all of the ways in which human skills are evolving, new sectors are being created that are powered by AI. And if you look over history, there has always been, when new innovations and disruptions happen, there's this fear. Jobs are going to be eliminated. Everyone's going to be automated. The robots are taking over. And there is going to be significant disruption, absolutely. But I'm actually more optimistic, particularly the more I see new categories being created, new innovation that's happening. It's much easier to start a company right now. It's much more easier to have low cost, high scalability, right, with AI. So with more individuals creating new businesses, startups being created, a lot of activity is going. I see a lot of new job categories being created. There'll be different jobs. I also think there's many categories where you'll see AI not disrupting as much. I mean, if you think about the role of a teacher, if you think about the role of a nurse, the role of a firefighter, a truck driver, many of these roles are in the foreseeable future going to be, yes, technology enabled, but a lot of these human skills and a lot of these roles that have a lot of human interactivity are going to be incredibly important for the foreseeable future.
Okay. And since we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience, I'm sure they also want to know what kind of skills they should now start looking for when they hire people for their organizations.
Punita's the CEO of Entrepreneur Magazine, so she's going to ask me an entrepreneur-related question. Look, if you go back a few decades, people focused a lot on IQ, on cognitive skills, on problem solving, and then there was a big wave on EQ, emotional intelligence. I want to make the case that adaptability, or AQ, adaptability quotient, is going to become the underlying fundamental skill. And for entrepreneurs, I mean, that's so much of what we do in an entrepreneurial world, isn't it? We're looking at the external market. We're understanding what are my goals, what's the product or service I want to offer to that market, and then I'm looking for product market fit. And so as entrepreneurs, we're constantly looking for that balance, that intersection between the external opportunities and challenges and the internal offering. And so the ability to adapt is the most critical skill in my view. IQ, yes, cognitive skills, you got to problem solve. EQ, you have to have that human element, empathy, relatability. But increasingly AQ, right? Adaptability is going to become, for me, I believe, that important skill. And again, organizations like ETS that are really focusing on measuring the next wave of skills that we need are going to be important to, so whether it's an employer or whether it's a fresher coming out of college here in India, being able to measure, track, interview for, demonstrate adaptability, or as we say in India, jugaad, a little bit of the, hacking your way through, that kind of creative mindset is going to be critical.
Okay. I would also ask you, because you're also at the leadership level and you've been heading a large team at a billion-dollar enterprise. So when you also, hire new recruits, what are the new age skills which you typically see, they should have when you are hiring?
When I'm hiring a leader, what am I looking for?
Yes.
Some of the skills that are critical is, can they do that job, right? So there's sort of a baseline. If we're hiring a leader in marketing or a leader in finance or a leader in human resources, we just recently brought on a fabulous chief people officer, for example. Do they have experience? Do they have domain knowledge? Can they do the core functions? So if you assume that fundamental skill set's there, I'm really more focused on the other aspects that go above and beyond functional and domain expertise. For a leader in this environment, as I mentioned, adaptability is incredibly important. So have they demonstrated in a couple of prior jobs working in a context that's going through disruption? Have they worked on a leadership team to adapt to a new environment? Have they done a turnaround? Have they done a startup? Have they done a restructuring? So adapting to different situations. If someone's worked at one company for 20 years and their job hasn't changed that much, they may not have experienced as much adaptability. But an individual that's worked here and then here and here, even if it's in the same company or if it's in 3 or 4 different companies, I like seeing individuals that have worked in different contexts, because at ETS, we're, yes, a billion-dollar organization, we're global, but we're actually quite different operations. We do work in K-12,
Okay.
serving teachers and students in high school. We do work in higher ed like TOEFL and GRE.
Yeah.
And then we work in the corporate world. We do skill-based hiring, skill-based assessment. We do licensure with our recent acquisition of PSI and our new acquisition of an Indian company, Weebox. And this is more on the workforce side. So we work in many different areas. And so having that adaptability of understanding different situations and adapting, I think is key, number one. Number two is really having empathy, really having an incredible ability to listen and understand what's happening around them. I think as leaders, we're all constantly in new situations, and so having that sensibility of what's happening around, what are people feeling. All of us in education are ultimately in a people business, right? We're not making widgets, we're not selling cups. I mean, we're empowering humans to move forward. And so leaders that have that human-centered approach I think is really critical. And I really look for integrity. I really look at somebody who really believes in, doing good, making the right calls, really serving a higher purpose. ETS is a mission-driven organization, and so we're constantly looking for people that have that sense of public good.
And when you are heading an organization which has been in business for more than 70 years, if I'm correct, yes. So it's a legacy business, and it has a brand, it has, an appeal which people look up to. So when you are bringing in new changes or introducing new courses, how much does that weigh in, whether it's going to succeed or not? Whether, like you said, mentioned that you're introducing something new for the Indian market. So what is the risk factor like, and how, of course, as a leader, I'm sure you're not averse to that, but how do you ensure that, yes, it's going to succeed and I'm prepared for that in the future?
Within ETS?
Yes.
Yeah, how are we preparing our staff?
Yeah.
The ETS historically has done an amazing service in providing high-quality, reliable assessments, right? That's what we're known for, really high quality, unbiased, really good integrity in our tests. We do 50 million a year, as I mentioned. We've been doing this for decades. As we move forward, we're really operating with a very entrepreneurial approach right now. We're really testing and learning in new areas. So the K-12 or higher ed or workforce, we're at a stage right now of providing a lot more flexibility and innovation, taking chances. Look, we're in a measurement organization, and the world of education is changing so fast. The leaders here and the individuals here are a big part of the revolution in education. So we're looking to partner with educational organizations, and that means being adaptive, being flexible. This morning we had a conversation with a very exciting company, Unstop, that's in the education to workforce play, kind of a LinkedIn, for the Indian market. And so how do we partner? How do we innovate? How do we do assessments that can serve that type of platform, which is very different from offering a GRE. So I think looking accordingly at different places and really encouraging that innovative approach.
Okay. And particularly talking about India, you've been working with a lot of startups in the Indian market. So any specific learnings you've had while working with them?
Learnings working with Indian startups. I love meeting entrepreneurs in India that are thinking very big. India is itself a big market, 1.3 billion, higher education of 40 million, hundreds of millions of students in K-12. That's a huge market here. But India is also the base in which you can launch incredible global brands, incredible global products. And you see many of the companies here at this conference as really doing exactly that. So, I'm just always amazed when I meet somebody who's half my age, who's ready to conquer the world. And I think thinking big, getting that kind of belief that you can really do something big is exciting for me. So I'm particularly encouraged by people that are chasing really these kind of big opportunities. And, you've got so many advantages here. You've got a cost advantage. You've got access to technology, growing access to capital. But it ultimately takes that entrepreneurial vision that says, I can extend beyond the Indian shores. I can really serve audiences in the U.S. and Europe and Africa. That ambition is quite exciting. So I, from a personal capacity, love investing in companies that are really having that kind of global mindset.
Sure. And I mean, before I open the floor for audience Q&A, just one last question I have. I mean, are there any future trends which you see emerging in the education space at large?
Future trends I see emerging in education at large. I mean, I think there's just constantly new and innovative offerings in often old products. Let's take English training. English has been around for a long time in India and elsewhere. People are learning new languages. But right now, how do you measure communication skills? And if you look at the Indian statistics, just recently, the EF study from last year found that of the 116 countries that they surveyed, India is 69th in English language capability, 69th. And it actually dropped 14%.
Oh, is it?
So in India, even though many of us often think about, because we know many people who are English speakers in India, it's not at the level that it could be. And I think English, again, a fundamental skill that we often overlook because we're focusing on AI skills or technical skills, but actually basic communication skills are going to become much more important in a world of AI. So I'm proud to share that we at ETS are launching TOEIC Link, which is a product that we had an earlier version of in other markets. TOEIC is the Test of English for International Communications, and it's a product that 14,000 companies around the world recognize. 140 million people have taken TOEIC over the last few decades, but we're launching an online version of TOEIC. So TOEIC is a 90-minute assessment, 4 skills, 100% online, and I'm pleased to share that we're going to be introducing that next month in India. And so that's an example of a trend, which is English, learning English, but how do you measure it? And how do you assess it? And how do you demonstrate that signaling? And so we're excited that the Indian market, with companies seeking more and more communication skills, people wanting to demonstrate it, but people often need a signal, a certificate, a piece of paper that says, or a DigiLocker credential that says, I have that. And so that's an example of the kind of trends that we're seeing. More and more new and innovative ways to certify and signal that I have that skill.
Okay. So I'm being told that time is up and we'll have to wrap up. Okay. So I think the audience can catch up with Amit. Amit, I'm sure you're going to be around to chat on a one-on-one basis with everyone.
Great.
So,
Thank you very much, Punita.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking
Thank
to
you.